Look up at the night sky. There it is, the moon, cold, distant, and familiar. It's always there, quietly orbiting us, watching, waiting. But here's the strange part. We went to the moon, we walked on it, and then we just stopped. Between 1969 and 1972, we landed humans on the moon 6 times. Then, silence. More than 50 years and no one's gone back? NASA says it was about money. Some say public interest faded. But those answers don't sit right. Because when you dig deeper, when you really look, you find a story that's far more unsettling. A story filled with missing data, cancelled missions, radio blackouts, and quiet warnings no one wanted to talk about. This isn't just about space history. It's about what we were told and what may have been deliberately left out. Let's rewind. Early 1960s, the US and the Soviet Union are locked in the Cold War, and the space race is heating up fast. In 1961, the Soviets sent Yuri Gagarin into orbit, the first human in space. That move shook America. And just weeks later, President John F. Kennedy made a bold promise. We choose to go to the moon in this decade. That one speech launched a global mission, Project Apollo. NASA kicked into overdrive. More than 400,000 people, engineers, scientists, technicians, all working toward one goal: land a man on the moon and bring him back safely. The budget? Astronomical. But today's standards, over $150 billion was spent. But this wasn't just about exploration. It was about proving America could lead, even beyond Earth. And on July 20, 1969, we did it. Neil Armstrong took that iconic step. The world watched in awe. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. From there, the missions kept coming. Apollo 12, Apollo 14, 15, 16, and 17. We planted flags, drove lunar rovers, brought back hundreds of pounds of moon rock. We set up experiments and left behind seismic sensors. NASA wasn't just visiting. They were planning to stay. There were talks of permanent moon bases, nuclear-powered habitats, and even future missions to Mars, using the moon as a launch pad. The Apollo program was more than a mission. It was a gateway to the stars. And then, it ended. No big announcement, no public outcry, just silence. Apollo 17, December 1972 was the last time a human walked on the moon. Why? That's where things start to get strange. Here's something NASA doesn't talk about much. There were supposed to be 3 more Apollo missions: 18, 19, and even 20. These weren't just ideas. The astronauts were already training. Modules had been built. Rockets were in place. Then, suddenly, all 3 missions were cancelled. The reason? NASA blamed budget cuts. Vietnam was draining government spending, and people weren't tuning into moon landings anymore. But here's the thing. Billions had already been spent. Much of the hardware was finished, and public support wasn't as dead as they claimed. Why cancel so close to the finish line? Apollo 18 was deep into planning. The lunar module was ready. Crew members were assigned. Even the launch schedule was penciled in. Then, gone. Quietly erased from history. Some researchers believe Apollo 18 did fly as a secret mission. That it discovered something and we were told to stand down. Now, whether or not that's true, one thing is certain. The way those missions disappeared doesn't make sense. And it wasn't just the missions that vanished. In 2006, NASA made a shocking admission. They had lost the original high-res tapes of the Apollo 11 moon landing. Gone. Not stored, not misplaced, just erased and reused. Think about that. The single most important broadcast in human history, and they taped over it? NASA claimed it was just poor archiving, but critics weren't convinced. And then there were strange transmissions. During Apollo 11's mission and others, there were radio blackouts when the craft passed behind the moon. For a few minutes, communication with Earth was impossible. And during these blackouts, some say astronauts made off-record comments. Comments that were allegedly picked up by amateur radio listeners. One rumored exchange. "They're here. They're watching us. Massive structures wide on the crater edge." NASA, of course, denies anything like this happened. But the rumors didn't stop. Buzz Aldrin later said they saw an unknown object flying near Apollo 11. NASA dismissed it as space debris. But Aldrin never sounded convinced. And Neil Armstrong? He rarely spoke about the moon. But in one of his rare public appearances, he left a strange remark. "Breakthroughs are available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers." What did he mean? Add to that the reports of astronauts seeing flashes of light when they closed their eyes. NASA blamed cosmic radiations hitting their retinas, but some thought otherwise. Even here on Earth, astronomers have seen unexplained lunar flashes for centuries, bursts of light that appear briefly on the moon's surface. Are they impacts? Gases? Something else? To this day, there's no solid answer. The deeper you dig, the more pieces don't fit. Cancelled missions, lost footage, strange sightings, radio silence. And all this at a time when we had the momentum, the budget, and the tech to keep going. It starts to feel less like a project being worn down, and more like one being shut down, intentionally. Here's something wild. The moon doesn't rotate the way you might think. It's tidally locked, which means one side of it always faces us and the other side never does. For thousands of years, no one had ever seen the far side. That changed in 1959 when the Soviet probe Luna 3 sent back the first blurry images. What it showed wasn't what we expected. The far side looks nothing like the familiar face we see. It's rougher, more craters, no wide, dark seas, almost like it's older. When astronauts orbited the moon, they passed behind it and lost radio contact with Earth. Just silence for several minutes. And during those blackouts, strange things were allegedly picked up. by backup recorders and even amateur listeners. One of the weirdest was during Apollo 10, a high-pitched rhythmic sound, later called space music. NASA brushed it off as interference, but even the astronauts were rattled. Then came China's Chang'e 4 mission in 2019, the first to land on the far side. Their rover snapped an image of something cube-shaped on the horizon. They called it the Moon Hut. Later, they said it was a boulder, but many weren't convinced. Other images showed strange shadows, geometric patterns, and heat signatures beneath the surface. It's all real. It's in the data, and most of it never makes the news. So what's going on over there? If something wanted to stay out of sight, the far side of the moon would be the perfect place. Now, we get to the real mystery. Some researchers believe the moon may not be a random chunk of rock, that it might be engineered, or at least partially artificial. Sounds crazy, right? But listen to this. During Apollo 12, NASA deliberately crashed part of the lunar module into the surface. The moon rang like a bell for nearly an hour. It wasn't hollow, but something inside echoed the impact in a way nothing on Earth would. Even NASA was stunned. And then there's a perfect orbit, the exact size to cause solar eclipses. The oddly shallow craters, the unusual metallic elements just beneath the surface. Some say it's a coincidence, others say it's by design. There are also claims of structures seen in NASA imagery: triangular shadows, grid-like patterns, symmetrical domes deep inside craters. YouTubers get dismissed for seeing faces in clouds, but a few anomalies, like the famous shard and tower images from lunar orbiter photos, are hard to ignore. And then comes Apollo 20, the supposed secret mission. In 2007, a man named William Rutledge claimed he was part of it. He released blurry footage of a massive alien craft half buried in a crater. NASA never confirmed it. Most people called it fake, but the terrain in the video matched real lunar maps. And even if Rutledge was lying, how did he match that location so accurately? There's also the Clementine mission, a joint NASA-DoD probe in the 1990s. It took over 1.8 million moon images, and a large number were never released. Why? NASA says they weren't useful, but some insiders claim Clementine was testing for artificial structures. Even today, you can go through public moon maps and find strange things. Long straight edges, circular formations with exact symmetry, crater shadows that just feel off. Maybe it's lighting, maybe it's our imagination, or maybe the moon is hiding more than rock and dust. When people think of the moon landings, they picture science and exploration. But behind the scenes was a whole different story. NASA wasn't just a space agency. It was heavily tied to the US military. Many astronauts were Air Force pilots. Much of the Apollo tech built with defense contractors. And before Apollo ever launched, the military had a plan. Project Horizon, a classified blueprint to build a military outpost on the moon. We're talking bunkers, communication towers, even the potential for nuclear weapons up there. It's never happened officially, but even now, documents show the Pentagon sees the moon as a strategic high ground. Whoever controls it, controls the skies. And that might explain a few things. Maybe we stopped going, not because we were done, but because someone else was watching. Or maybe we found something there that made further missions too risky. Now, after 50 years, we're finally going back. NASA's new Artemis program plans to land astronauts near the moon's south pole. This time, not just to visit, but to stay. Why the South Pole? Because of water ice, frozen deep in craters where the sun never shines. Water means fuel, life support, and long-term survival. Elon Musk's SpaceX is involved. China and Russia are working on their own bases, and private companies are racing to mine lunar resources. Suddenly, the moon isn't a trophy. It's real estate, a launched pad, a refueling station for Mars and beyond. But here's what no one talks about. In all these plans, no one's landing where we already went. Not a single mission revisits the exact sites of Apollo 11, 12, or 17. Why? Is it just respect for history, or are there reasons those places are being avoided? Think about it. We had momentum. We had the technology. We had the world watching. And then it all stopped. Just like that. Some believe we were warned that something or someone up there didn't want us coming back. Former astronauts like Edgar Mitchell have hinted that we're not alone, that governments know more than they admit. And when you combine the cancelled missions, the missing data, and the eerie silence from space agencies, it paints a picture that's hard to ignore. Could the moon be more than a rock? Could it be an ancient construct, a base, a beacon, or something we were never meant to touch? We don't have answers, not yet. But one thing's for sure. As we prepare to return, the moon hasn't changed. It still watches us, still holds its secret. And this time, it won't be just footsteps we leave behind. Enjoyed the journey? Hit subscribe for more mind-bending space stories, only on Orbital Vistas. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep looking up.